Jai Ma Kamakhya, Jai Matara, Jai Bhairava. So today's video is uh, not about a sadhana, but about something that I've been thinking of. When I go through the emails of various people who send, and there are innumerable mails that come to me, and my team goes to them. There's only a small fraction that to which it's possible for me to answer. But there is always a large section of people who mail for material problems, though I've mentioned several times that I do not do consultations. I do not, you know, I'm not to quote that. I'm not the kinds who will make you some tavis and all that and get your problem solved. I have no interest in that. Those who have, they can go to those people. There are many commercial, uh, tantrics and upasakas and other things. It's what they do. I don't care much about that. My focus is entirely different, and it is as I'm guided by the deities I worship. At one point, I used to do that, but now I've stopped completely. But having said that, still there is always a significant chunk of people who mail, there are problems. Of these, there is a specific kind where I find that there is somebody who started some sadhana, first 6 months things have gone good, then there's suddenly some bad thing happens, and the first instance there is a materially negative experience that comes, you immediately rush with an email that why doesn't it work, and I need to have a quick solution, something like that. From whatever is if it's brought to my notice, to whatever degree I can figure out from the mail and the information without going too deep into it, there is some solution that is provided if the mail comes to my notice, and that is only a small fraction of the daily emails that we get. But my video today is not about that. It's about an attitude. Who is the person who is most likely to succeed in Shakti Upasana? So all this, whether it's Bhairava Upasana, whether it's Mahavidya Upasana, Tara Upasana you're doing, Kamakhya Upasana, Kali Upasana, Durga Upasana, these are all a combined package. It's not one separate from the other. So Bhairava will automatically lead you to both a true experience of the highest stages of Devi Upasana, as well as, if it is so destined for an individual, the highest stages of Shiva Upasana also. Both of these pathways are guarded, controlled, and sort of the leader, the guru of these paths is Bhairava. He knows these paths better than anybody else. But specifically when it comes to Shakti Upasana, from which we have the vast array of tantras. I mean, there are Vaishnava tantras. For the sake of speaking, there are other tantras, but those have largely been, fallen by the side, and very rarely those are used today to that degree, nowhere close to the degree in which we use Shakta tantras across India. And as time goes, this is increasing. And there's a good reason for this. Because in the Kali Yuga, there is no paddhati that works as quickly, as fast, and as strongly as tantras. Because the kind of gunas that are present in the atmosphere at this moment, it's very difficult beyond a point to overcome them or have a certain degree of sustainable resistance to those kind of karmic impacts using entirely sattvic methods. And this is, if we go by traditional accounts, we are only at the beginning of Kali Yuga. As time goes by, this is going to increase further. So there is no question that Tantra, and more particularly the aspects of Vamachara, etc., is going to come into a huge prominence. But that said, it doesn't mean that everybody who tries Shakti Upasana is going to succeed, because there is when I'm talking about success, I mean the complete union with one of the Mahavidya Swarupas. Not just, doing a few mantras and knowing few texts and, doing small level prayogas and all that. No, I mean a complete union with the deity, a transformative, absolute union, what is called the Purnadsiddhi, not the small level abilities of mind reading or this or that, not that. Shakti Upasana requires the attitude of a person who doesn't give up. It's not the path where one cribs about ki this is happening, that is happening, why is it not happening, why is it there. If every small obstacle that comes, or small or big, any obstacle that comes, immediately a person gets rattled from their center and doesn't know what to do and thinks that, oh, I need, there is that, that constant, that sense of neediness. That's an energy. You cannot really define it, but when you see a person who is needy, there are two types of needy: one who is actually materialistically in a very bad shape, or one who's just constantly that kind of an energy that is projected out of it, that I need more, and there is this frustration that is always there in their aura. Uh, and it's reflected in every action, in every word, in every kind of frustration that they throw out every few days. For those people, success in Shakti Upasana is going to be very tough, because it requires a grit and an attitude and the ability to bear pain. Those who cannot bear pain, those who get frustrated and pain means, I don't mean physical pain, that's of course there, but there is also the pain of psychological pain. Suppose you want something and you don't get it. How are you going to process that? Are you going to crib about it? Are you going to accept the reality? Or you say, okay, right now I can't get it, but let's draw up a plan. Let's draw up a plan for like 5 years, 10 years, something like that, and a disciplined course of action, and follow it through every single obstacle, every single so-called failure, every single so-called backsliding. One who has that kind of an attitude, he or she is going to succeed eventually in Shakti Upasana. Anybody else who gets rattled in the first jolt that comes, who is unaccustomed to handling pressure psychologically, is frankly unfit for Shakti Upasana. uh, in general, for them, simple bhakti is good, but deeper mantra upasana, that engagement, that ability to take Shakti Upasana is very fierce eventually after a point. And do not for a moment expect that everything is going to be smooth for you. In fact, the best of Upasakas pass to the hardest of times. There is a thumb rule. You can take it for granted. If you are scared of hard times, well, hard times anyway is going to come to everybody someday or the other, because at the end of the day, these are governed by the activities you have done in your past life. But at least if you have some kind of a romantic idea that you are doing upasana, so therefore all difficulties are going to miraculously vanish ever, or if there are difficulties, then suddenly everything will turn into a peak, then you are self-deluding yourself. Nothing of that sort is ever going to happen. You have to have that stomach to take the beating that nature gives you, because it makes you stronger. From the sadhana perspective, every karmic reaction that you get is mainly because there is two things that are happening. A, there's a test that is going to happen, whether you have the capacity to go higher. B, it also helps you become stronger and harder inside. Unless you are strong enough, you cannot succeed in this path. And unless you have tremendous amount of patience and determination, not the patience of somebody who's a loser, which means that you give up the patience, not exactly patience. You think that it's an insurmountable path and you cannot do anything about it, so you give up. That's not patience. That's one way. Okay, fine, you give up. That's all right. Uh, but suppose you want to succeed, but at the same time you do not suffer from that neediness, that, oh, that immaturity of the mind, where you cannot handle pressure and you need immediate results. Why am I not getting it? So this why am I not getting it is an irrelevant question, because nature absolutely doesn't care about you. Get this thing right down to your DNA. You are irrelevant to nature. You can go up to the top of a mountain and shout, why don't I get success? Nature doesn't care. You get exactly what you have deserved because of past life actions. You have to believe that. Even if you don't believe that, still it makes no difference to anybody, because nothing is going to change and suddenly make everything miraculously positive for you. But if there is a man, if there is an upasaka, if there is an individual who thinks, no, I don't care what the conditions are, I want to reach XYZ, accordingly I will be doing these things in a very disciplined manner, taking any number of hardships and giving reasonable amount of time. That is very important. Reasonable means, if you start a mantra sadhana today and think that, okay, 6 months down or 1 month, 1 year down the line, why am I not seeing results? You are just foolish. People have done this for years, for decades. Okay. And this applies not just for mantra, this applies for any aspect of life. If you need to succeed somewhere, one is, of course, whether there's a part of destiny, grahas, and all that. But leave that aside. There's a certain attitude that has to be there. That I need to go from here to here. I give a time frame, 5 years, 10 years time. I'm going to do X, Y, Z in a very disciplined manner. If you have the capacity, it's like a tapasya in itself. If you are focusing on that and you give a long enough time scale, there is nothing that you cannot achieve. On the other hand, people who fail are mostly those who have a very jittery kind of energy that I want it immediately. Why isn't it happening in 6 months miraculously? Nahi hai, tumhara kismat mein nahi hai. It's not in your destiny, so it's not happening. Accept it. No amount of cribbing, no amount of crying, no amount of frustration is going to change anything. The more you throw out that energy, the more nature deems you as unfit to achieve that goal, whichever you have set in your mind. So remember, this attitude is very, very important in Shakti Upasana. Only that person who has the tenacity, who has the patience, who has that perseverance that I am going to reach there, whatever amount of time it takes. Does not matter how many times I fall down, I don't care. I'll still get up and keep trying. And has the discipline. Remember, discipline is equally important. If you don't have discipline in the sadhana that you're doing, or anything that you're pursuing for that matter, time doesn't matter, you'll never reach. On the other hand, if you have discipline but you are lacking in patience, then also you will never reach. Only a person who has infinite amount of patience but is never lazy, constantly there is a single pointed goal in your head. This I have to reach. 24/7 you make it like a madness, like an avesham into your head. This is where I have to go. I don't care about other things. Every difficulty will be thrown at you. This is the thumb rule of nature. The moment you take it in your head that, okay, I have to reach an exceptional condition, because succeeding in Mahavidya Upasana is literally exceptional. And I don't mean just doing a few malas of mantra japa and all that. That anybody can do. Some small miraculous things happening, that's all right. Talking about reaching a Mahavidya to the extent that it transforms you completely. Okay? Transformation is the goal. 100% transformation. That's very tough. That's something that one in thousands reach. But it is only that individual who reaches, who has that iron willpower in him. That you have to go there, doesn't matter how many times you fall down. You get up, you try, you get up, you try, and you don't crib about it constantly. Because every time you crib, it's like a negative marks that nature puts in your balance sheet. That this individual is not fit to reach there. Crying, cribbing, frustration, immaturity are just parameters. They're signs basically. These are reflections. Like you have a thermometer to check the degree of fever that an individual has. So these, what you speak, how you behave, shows that whether your system is ready to go to that level where you want to reach. It's a different thing. It's one thing to say that, okay, I want to reach there. It's another thing to prepare your mind and body to the extent where you vibrate with that kind of energy, where that whatever the goal that you have set in sadhana, that success comes to you. Very often when people tie everything to material aspects, ki I do this and therefore this material aspect, that's the mind deteriorates into a superstitious mass. So every small thing then becomes like, oh, why is this crow flying here? That means that something is happening. I was doing this, that means this is happening. That's all basically at the end of the day irrelevant, um, clutching at straws to find some meaning out of something, or more fundamentally, a complete inability to accept reality as it is. Such individuals too almost never succeed, because your energy that you are carrying, the energy that you feel comfortable in, is one of constant craving, sorrow, and craving for sympathy. People who crave for sympathy, I have very little sympathy for them, because they are not interested in changing themselves. They're interested in saying that they want to change themselves. There's a huge difference between the two. There are way too many people, and I get innumerable emails and I read them and I can see that this is not going to work out for this person, because actually, fundamentally, deep down, they don't want to change. Because to change, you have to do some things. They want some miraculous, magical, out of the world, fantastic solution, which is never going to happen. And subconsciously they know it's never going to happen. So all they do is they spend an exorbitant amount of energy cribbing and crying about it. So what they need is not sadhana, they need Perhaps counselors. You hire a counselor who will listen to all the cribbing, and then you pay them for it, because otherwise it'll drive them mad as well. When without money, if you just listen to somebody's cribbing, then it's going to drive you crazy. So this whole business of you know being immature, being this neediness, is an energy that you should completely shun. If you have to succeed, become very, very determined in your goal, be very focused and disciplined in the activity that will lead you to success. If you want success in sadhana, then you have to have tremendous amount of patience and tremendous amount of clarity in the path. Patience, anybody who lacks patience, 100% is going to fail. There is no two ways about it. There's no point telling that, oh, I need to get it today, tomorrow, this, that, etc. Irrelevant. Nature doesn't care. Nature has a very fixed rule. You can cry and crib. The more you faster you try to run, if you're not prepared, the quicker you will fall. That is the thumb rule. Nature is very, very clear. Remember this. Nobody can bribe nature, nobody can force nature, nobody can coerce nature into behaving, acting even 1 degree faster or quicker than what it is. No amount of your crying, cribbing, anything makes the slightest difference to nature. What, however, does change is that if you stop being constantly cringy and having that constant an immature craving for immediate results. That's immature because it means that the brain and the mind is not developed in the right kind of environment, or maybe a very peculiarly secluded environment has been the mainstay. So slightest amount of pressure offsets such individuals from their base, or perhaps there is no central base, central being inside them, where they can process all these storms of life. So for them, Bhairav sadhana is even more important because nobody creates base other than Bhairava. He is the fundamental base inside. He is the one of the names we use for Bhairava is Kshetragya, one who knows the Kshetra. Kshetra is your body, one who knows where is the base. He's not going to give you the result, but he tells you how to become like a storm, how to stop being this completely, this cutting a sorry face and craving for sympathy type of individual, which nobody likes, frankly. Don't be that. Nobody likes means the worst thing is that nature doesn't like such people, and therefore you never succeed. So fundamentally, even simply, there are any given day in a temple like say Kamakhya or any other big Tarapet or any temple, hundreds of people are going with all sorts of desires. 15 to 20% get their desires fulfilled. The rest of them get nothing, because after some time, it's as if, metaphorically speaking, the deity puts earplugs in our ears and says that, okay, you keep crying as much as you want. There's a difference. There's a way to ask. You earn the adhikara to ask, and then. But most often, people have this feeling, they have this self-assessment that, okay, I am doing so much. I am putting in so much effort. But who is the independent judge whether your effort is correctly aligned, whether it's really an effort, or you are thinking it's an effort, and whether you have given sufficient time? Without time, nothing ever succeeds. Nothing ever succeeds. Mahakal has to write the final signature on your destiny to get XYZ. And until he writes, nothing is going to happen. But instead of leaving all this aside, if you determine it in your head that, okay, I have to reach to the stage where I attain complete success, Purnadsiddhi of tremendous Mahavidya like Kali or Tara or any other field of life. And then you give yourself sufficient time. Don't put it like 2 years, 3 years. For that kind of success, lifetimes will be required. But here's the thing: the moment you hear that lifetimes will be required, if it deflates your heart, you think that ye to nahi hone wala hai, then you're not meant for this anyway. So you do a little bit of puja part. Don't have too much expectations. Don't think that anything miraculous is going to happen, because it's not going to happen. That is the reality. Anybody else tells you anything else is all nonsense. This is very tough. It requires that kind of attitude. Shakti Upasana requires that attitude of the person who says, I never give up, regardless of the amount of failures. And trust me, every single Upasaka who has reached the highest stage will have to go through failures and mistakes. There are no two ways about it. The condition that you're starting in is one of complete ignorance. And the condition you want to reach is one of enlightenment. Between this, the gap is huge. And you will make a lot of mistakes. It doesn't matter whether you have a guru or not. Even with a guru also, you will make mistakes. I have found enough number of people with many gurus who have made a lot of mistakes. When I don't go and tell them that you should do or should not do this or that, it's not my role to do that. But I observe keenly every single individual that I meet, and I see that where they have made their errors. Making a mistake is not a problem. How quickly you understand, you rectify the mistake, then you put in that disciplined effort again and again and again. That counts. That is sincerity. That is effort. That kind of an attitude, without being too, again, without trying to crave for sympathy, that kind of individual is bound to succeed one day or the other, because nature takes a note of that type of individual's changed attitude. That attitude is the attitude of a winner in Upasana. Anything else you try and do, it's only a temporary flash in the pan. It's not going to work out. So that's why uh, even in other places where I've spoken, I've always said that minimum 3 years of consistent sadhana, and that is just the beginning. 12 years of consistent sadhana. If you're not doing that, if that in this 12 years, so many things are going to happen, good, bad, everything. If you can't handle that pressure is meant to build you. It's a transformative sadhana. Without the pressure, you will never know what you can digest and where you bend, and what is your will, and what is your stamina, what is your inner strength, where is it that you have your center of being. Without this, you will never know. Everybody had to go through difficulties, and everybody will have to go through difficulties, but sadhana is your anchor that takes you along. And it is only through these difficulties that a filtering process is created, who is meant to succeed at the highest level and who is not meant to succeed at the highest level. So remember this always. At the slightest amount of sign of some obstacle or some difficulty or some this and that happening, don't get rattled so easily. Keep doing your sadhana. Sadhana, the very process of sadhana is a churning that removes the karmic blockages that you might have, and especially a deity's job is to give you the best possible outcome given the karmas that you are carrying. Remember this. It is not their job to go ahead and remove all your karmas of all the activities that you have performed in your past life, because you didn't ask their permission when doing that. So they are not going to go and just remove all the karmas just like that. But they can, if you are consistent, if your attitude is correct, if you keep pursuing, they can reduce the intensity of it. So given the kind of karmas that you carry, they will give you the, if you are sincere in your sadhana, they will try to give you the best deal possible. And that is their unique compassion. That is why they are gods. They see vast expanses of time. They're not like you and me. They see where you come from, what are the stuff that you have done, which has put you in this current position, and how far amount of grace is meant for you, depending on the efforts that you're putting. And again, remember this: patience, discipline, and getting out of this habit of being constantly cutting a sorry face and why am I not getting this, why am I not getting that, this, that, etc. Nobody likes that, specifically not the deity, specifically not nature. That only puts your energy quotient, even at a very lower pedestal. The kind of energy that you carry also changes when you're doing sadhana. So at the one point you're doing sadhana, the other point you are cribbing constantly, means you're just leaking out all the energy that you are gathering. And this is another way of leaking energy, not just anger, not just uncontrolled lust and all those things. A person who has a positive attitude through thick and thin, through anything, has already won half the battle of sadhana. With that, I'll end this video here. Jai Ma Kamakhya, Jai Ma Tara, Jai Bhairava.